Hi everyone, Jay Mamomi here, and in today's video I'm sharing 5 tips to turn a single page layout into a cohesive double page layout. So that's what I'll be doing here today. I created this single page layout knowing I would be adding photos to it, but this is the focal image I wanted to use for Christmas Eve last year. So this was also like a stash busting layout and had some techniques in it for stenciling, and I will leave this video linked at the end of this video here. So I'm taking a lot of the elements from here and translating them over here. When you create a double page layout, it doesn't have to be an exact mirror image. In fact, I prefer it not to be. I like things kind of asymmetrical and not to be super matchy-matchy all of the time. So my first tip would be to look at the base foundation page, and that's what I've already created here. I've got my foundation page already done. I gutted this back page, this red pattern here, and that's going to be a border, and then I've got my black mat and my white piece that are going to have my photo sitting on them. The second thing to keep in mind is using the same papers and carrying those over. So I've cut some of the same papers. This is from a few different collections. Like I said, this was a stash busting collection or layout and using scraps. So I've taken those same patterns and brought them over here, and I'm going to create a grid style layout. You definitely don't have to do a grid style layout when you're creating a companion page, but I find that it really often works well. I've done 2x2 photos. You can do 3x3, 4x4, any size you want. You can do like 9 3x3s or 4 4x4s. I'm going to do 16 2x2s. And I've already got these in the order that I want. We've got the progression of the evening. My family actually opens presents and celebrates Christmas on Christmas Eve. That is something from my side of the family. My mom is of German heritage, and that is a German tradition, so we carry that on. And then we do Christmas morning with my husband's side of the family. So I'm just going to kind of lay these down, and I'll probably change them up later, but I just want to sort of get them down and then I can rearrange. Now, the third thing to keep in mind is to use the same color of embellishments. And if you're going to be using different collections, just keep the colors in mind. It does help if you do use the same collection, but like I said, I'm mixing a lot of collections. So let me show you what I've pulled over. I've got my leftover stickers from this Comfort and Joy collection, and this is what I used a lot of, but I don't have like these poinsettias. I might want to carry those over. I don't have any poinsettias left here, so I had these little poinsettia scraps, and so that might be how I carry the poinsettias over. So I'll just set those aside and we'll come back to that. I've got some gold foil here, but there's not a lot left. I might use this pretty little border like down on the bottom to sort of anchor everything. And I've got a few, this 1225 won't work because this was 1224, but I've got a few little things here, a few little sayings. I think this is too big. I've already got a title. And then I pulled in this Christmas story, which is this year's collection. It is sold out, but the scrapbooking kit is still available. So I will link that and all the supplies that are still available down below. But this has a lot of those gold foil stars, and a lot of the colors won't work, but I think I can pull in these stars and maybe some other things. We'll see. And then I've got the gold glitter, because I've got these gold glitter images from, I think it was from this collection. So I pulled the same Comfort and Joy glitter collection out. I've got quite a few little sprigs I could pull over. They don't have to be exactly the same. I think I used all of the stars, so I may not actually pull stars over, but I still have that same glitter element. And I've got a Mary in here too, and then the Christmas. I might use the Christmas, and then I actually pulled out some alphabet stamps too, because I might spell Eve and have Christmas Eve. So we'll see how that turns out. The other thing I did was I pulled out this stamp set. This is the Christmas Story scrapbooking set. And since I don't have any more of these trees, I thought that this tree would be nice to use over here. I could stamp it in the same color and use that sort of in this area here to have that same color in the opposite corners. So I think I'm going to be using that as well. But I want to sort of lay out these pieces here, and keep in mind the rule of threes and visual triangles, just kind of keeping that, you know, guideline in mind. And I don't know if I want another one of these red ones, or so if I have that tree here, I'm gonna have, spread these out a little bit more, and then I don't want all the red bunched up either. I might actually, since I think the tree's gonna cover most of this up, I might put the red here. I don't want the reds on the same line, so I might do that. That looks pretty balanced to me. What I'm gonna do is take a picture of this so I can refer to it later, because I need to take all this off to work on my background. But this gives me sort of a starting place, and then I can kind of change things up as I go as well. But the fourth thing I want to keep in mind is little details. So over here, I did this stenciling, and I used this Stickles glitter gel. So I'll be doing that and a stencil that I made. So here is that stencil. I actually showed how I made this in Cricut Design Space in the last video, so you might want to check that out. I showed how to make sure that all of your lines are even and all that. So I definitely want to do that before I put all these photos on, so I can add this little background. And then the other thing I did in the background was some black splatters. So that's one thing that I often forget to do ahead of time, is the black splatters. So it's kind of nice to be working from something else and seeing that, okay, I know I want to add the black splatters, so I'm going to do that before I add my photos and papers as well. So these are the little details that I want to bring over as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started on that stenciling. I'll let it dry, and then we'll come back and talk about the fifth tip. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start with my stenciling. I've got just regular printer paper here so that it's not too thick, and just lining it up on the outsides of my white cardstock. And then I'm gonna lay my stencil down. You could tape this down with some masking tape or low tack tape if you want. I decided not to, since I'm gonna be moving it a lot, and I was just careful to keep it in place. This little pot is almost empty. I've got another unopened one ready to go in my craft room because I love using this glitter gel, but you don't need a whole lot. So I'm just taking my palette knife, and I'm very carefully, so that I don't move my stencil, spreading it around in that corner. You don't need it very thick. In fact, it's better if it's not real thick, because then it doesn't take as long to dry. Although I did let this dry overnight, you definitely don't have to, like 1 or 2 hours should be good enough, but I just had little bits of time as I was working on this layout. In fact, you might notice that I have different nails, different shirts on throughout this layout, because I was working on it on different days. But anyways, so now I'm working on that bottom corner. You notice that I did a little bit on the side above that, and then I'm going to bring it out a little bit on the side next to that also across the bottom, but I'm sort of feathering it out. I'm not using the whole stencil. I'm just using strategic parts of it to kind of feather it out and get the corners how I wanted. And then when you're done, make sure you wash those really well so that the stickles doesn't sit on your stencil and your palette knife, because it will harden and be really hard or impossible to get off. Now I'm doing little black splatters with my black shimmer brush. These shimmer brushes come in all different colors. I love them. I especially love them for splatters, but you can use them to color things as well. Now I'm going to bring in my Versamats. I'm going to put it under my original layout too, just because I like to have them kind of, you know, match next to each other. And then it also helps me stay in frame for you guys. But I'm going to put my layout so that it is adhered to that Versamat. This will not hurt the Versamat. You can easily wipe it off, and I'll show you how I do that at the end of this video. But this is going to help me line up all of these little grid pieces. Since I have 4 columns, I know that I'm going to have my gap right in the middle. So I've put my T-square ruler at about 6 1/4 inches. And some of this is trial and error, because I don't know exactly how far down I want it. I have sort of an idea, but I didn't do the math to exactly figure it out. I knew I wanted approximately 1/4 inch between each of my squares, but I'm not pressing hard when I put my squares down so that I can reposition them if I need to, and you'll see later that I do need to. But I have that first square, I moved it to 6 1/4 inches, 6 1/8 inch. That way I can move it to the other side of the to 5 7/8 on the other side, and I've got that 1/4 inch right in the middle. Although I did rearrange these to be just a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, it was more like 3/8 of an inch in between. So here's where I realized it's not going to be even, so I moved that bottom square down, just eyeballed it to where I thought they would look good, and so this is the spacing that I ended up with. So the first row and the first column are the hardest. So what I usually do when I do a grid style layout, because I do kind of fly by the seat of my pants and I don't measure ahead of time, is I get 1 row and 1 column done, and then the rest can follow. All right, so now we've got all of those done, and it's time to move on to this pretty tree. I decided to stamp this ahead of time because I sprayed this Krylon glitter shimmer spray. It's like a glitter spray paint on it. Doesn't that look so pretty? I'm kind of obsessed with this right now because it's spray paint, so the glitter won't rub off at all, but it is very stinky and you have to do it like in the garage or outside or super ventilated area. So I did that ahead of time and let that dry. Now I'm going to bring in these glitter pieces I showed earlier. I do really like that Mary, but I want to save that maybe for my actual Christmas Day pictures. So I'm going to play with all of these other glitter pieces. And now this is where I want to talk about my 5th tip to make sure your layouts are cohesive, and that is balance. So on the left side layout, the only gold glitter pieces that I have are the gold glitter stars. So they're really serving as just an accent. And as I'm playing with all of these pieces, I really love sparkle and shine, and I love these glitter pieces, but they're starting to kind of take over and they're not such an accent. So I want to make sure that I've got balance of all of the different pieces from the left over to the right. So I'm going to start taking away a lot of these glitter pieces and bringing in more of the gold foil and some other elements to bring in different colors and different levels of shine. This is the Christmas Story collection from this year, and I found that there are some smaller stars in this collection since I didn't have any smaller stars left in that other collection. As I was digging through this collection, I thought, oh, there might be some other pieces in here that I can use. I decided to pull out my catalog because it's much easier to see what's included in that pack than just looking through it. I saw that there was a 24 piece, so I pulled that out and thought that I might use that, but I wasn't sure about the color. There's a tiny bit of scarlet in my layout in some of the stickers on the left, but it's mostly the brighter candy apple red. So I'm gonna have it there for a moment but not end up using it. And then I had some of these white acrylic pieces, but I also decided not to use those because I didn't have any over on the left and I didn't want to add any on the left. So now I'm realizing I've got too much gold. I'm gonna pull those sprigs off and I'm gonna start adding in some of the gold foil pieces that I have from this sticker sheet. I do end up using this border on the bottom like I thought. So I'm gonna kind of just tuck it just a little bit under the Christmas tree, and one of the sides is already cut for me, so I'm gonna start with that side, line it up on the edge of the white paper, and then snip it off on the other side, and that gives me a nice little border and gives me some more of that gold foil. Then I saw that the word Christmas was in that last embellishment pack I had out, and I thought I would try that. I actually was kind of liking that instead of that extra gold glitter, but I wanted it centered over the tree and it was bothering me that that S was kind of blending in to the white background, so I'll fix that in a moment. But first I brought in some of my alphabet stamps. These are some smaller ones. I thought these two sizes might work. This first one is the Memo alphabet. It's a more skinny font, and this is a current set that is available. I ended up going with that other one though, just because it is a more bold font and stands out a little bit more. Unfortunately, it is retired, but that Memo alphabet would also look really cute. I will link that as well as some other alphabet stamp options down in the description below, as well as all of the other supplies that are available that I'm using here today. So in order to make that S stand out a little bit more, I added another gold glitter accent right under where the S is going to be, peeking out from behind the Christmas tree. I think that makes a big difference and really helps that stand out. I did try that poinsettia flower under there first, and now looking back as I'm editing, I kind of liked it better, but you know, that's okay. That happens. I like how the final layout turned out in the end, but you know, that's probably good. Those of you who don't record your layouts, you don't see like, oh, I wish I would have kept that. All right, so here's where I'm testing the two alphabets. That first one, again, is Memo. It's a little bit skinnier font, and then I wanted to try this font here that is a little bit more bold, and I did like how that stands out a little bit better. So I trimmed that out, and I'm just going to dovetail the ends here to make it look a little bit decorative, and we'll put it right underneath that Christmas. Next, I decided to bring in this poinsettia paper to try to work in some of that lighter green, the avocado green. There's just a tiny bit of it on the left. I wanted to add a square of it on the right, but I didn't have any of the actual paper on the left. So I'm going to try to kind of stick it in as one of those little scraps over there on the left, and that is going to work perfectly. It's going to add that pattern paper over on that side, so that then I can add it over on the right and it looks like it's meant to be together. So I'm just going to cover up that one pattern that I've already got there. Even though I'm now not using that pattern on the right, it's such a subtle pattern and it's not showing very much on the left that I think that's okay. I think the poinsettia paper was more dominant and it was more important for that to be what's showing on the right. So now I put that tree up on a little bit of thin 3D foam tape, and then I decided that this Eve needs a little bit of inking around the edges. So I'm just going to take my ink pad and go direct to paper and just do a tiny bit of edge to this Eve. It's kind of hard to get into those little dovetail areas, but using the corner of your ink pad works well, and I think that helps to make it stand out a little bit better. I'm going to add just a little bit of the thin 3D foam tape there as well. I love the thin 3D foam tape because it's not as much dimension as the regular foam tape, so it's great for scrapbook layouts when you don't want a lot of bulk. Trying to decide if I wanted it centered underneath Christmas or off to the side, and I ended up going off to the side because I like things a little bit off center. You could definitely go right underneath it though. And then we'll get this little glitter star in place, make sure it's right under that S in Christmas. And now I'm going to bring in some of those little gold foil accents from the sticker sheet. There's this cute little sticker that says Comfort and Joy, I think it is. Trying to decide where that's going to go. I kind of like it off center here on this square. So we're going to add that there. I'm not pressing down all the way because I'm not ready quite to commit. I'm just sort of playing with placement. I didn't take the stick off the stickers, but I just very lightly tacked them in place so that I can remove them if I want to. But I think most of them I kept pretty much in place. I decided to sort of stick it, like have it layered underneath that flower. And then I have these little, there's some of the little stars in the current Christmas story sticker sheet that are the brighter red. So I pulled all of those smaller stars in the bright color, and then I wanted to bring in a little bit more of that avocado color. So I used one of the sprigs that I die cut from the Christmas story stamp and die set, from the Christmas Story card kit, and then also the Christmas Story card making stamp set. It has this cute little holly and berries. So I was thinking I could layer them up in that top square. Then I'm going to bring in a few other little gold glitter accents. Was thinking maybe that star. Thought I would audition this little flower. And now we're getting into a lot of the other details. To go back to that last tip of balance, making sure everything's balanced within the one page and then also across both pages. I fussy cut one of the poinsettias from that poinsettia patterned paper to add to one of the squares, and then I thought it was a little too much avocado up in that top corner, so I ended up stamping that holly again. using the darker New England Ivy ink because I didn't want so much avocado. It's just a very small accent. And then I'm pulling in a few more of the gold foil pieces from the Christmas Story sticker sheet. And then I realized that there are some black stars on that other page too, so I need to make sure I bring those over. So I'm bringing over all of the same elements, and I do like that extra little like punch of black, that accent of black that brings. So I scattered a few different sizes of the stars, and then I had these red glitter gems in my stash. I decided to add them right over my little stamped holly berries, partly because one of them kind of smudged, so I wanted to cover it, but then I really liked that addition. But I didn't have any of those on the other page, so I just simply added a few of them over on the other page. Just three, just a few of them is all you need, just to kind of carry that element over so it's on both sides of the page. Now we're almost done. I need to show you my favorite way to add journaling, but first I'm going to take off the little stick from the back of the page, and came up easy with that rub and remove eraser. And I'm adding my journaling with these journal strip stickers. If you guys are familiar with my channel, you know I love these. They came out in the core catalog over the summer, and I love them because you don't have to plan out how long you want your strips. You just write on them. So I wrote across the whole strip, and then I laid them down on my layout and decided how long I wanted them and just snipped them to the size I wanted. And they just stick right down. They are so awesome. So again, I will have all of the products that I used linked down below if they are available. Here are some close-ups, and if you want some more still shots, then head over to my Instagram page. I will have all my social media links down in the description box below. And if you'd like to check out the process video and design space tutorial for the left side layout, then check out this video right here. I hope this gave you some inspiration for your upcoming Christmas photos. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming scrapbooking videos. Thanks for watching, and Merry Christmas!